200 miles, inches apart, better than 190 miles an hour. Any mistake can send you flying into that outside wall or whatever, and they do it all day long. Mark Martin gets sandwiched again back there, this time as they go back to turn one.
And Martin's into the wall now. Trouble in turn number one. Mark spins out of control. The whole pack is involved. Cars tumbling through the air, over and on, all twisting around and hit again as it comes back to the bottom of the racetrack in the corner. A savage crash in turn one. Several cars involved. Mark Martin's car sliding back down the racetrack now, being hit by several others, and we have a pile of cars sitting at the bottom of the banking in turn one.
Ricky Craven, one of the cars that went up in the air. A lot of damage to that. Ernie Irvin was involved. We got Jeff Purvis down here. Jeff Gordon with a lot of damage. Rusty Wallace was in the crash. Also the Mike Wallace car. Elton Sawyer still sitting on the apron of turn two. The Derek Cope car is here. Jeff Bodine's machine is here. Some of those cars now beginning to roll, driving away with a lot of torn up sheet metal, but still sitting on the apron between turns one and two. You've got the car of Jeff Gordon. He's trying to refire that. It's not working. Ernie Irvin still sitting down there. A few others out of our line of sight here between turns one and two.
There will be at least 10 cars that had damage in that spectacular accident that just happened down in turn number one. Mark Martin kind of got it triggered going there and bounced into that outside wall, then went right down through the middle of the field, slammed into Ricky Craven's automobile, and he went flying up the banking and collected another group of cars, including Jeff Gordon, Ernie Irvin involved in it, again Jeff Purvis involved in it. Looked like Rusty Wallace got a piece of it, Mike Wallace, Elton Sawyer, Ricky Rudd's car badly damaged, Jeff Bodine involved in it, and also Derek Cope.
Barney, by far the most seriously damaged of those cars was Ricky Craven's machine. When it got turned around over the top of Jeff Gordon's car in turn number one, he went up into the safety fencing that is designed basically to keep a car inside the racetrack, and then bounced back into traffic and was struck again by another car. Some very severe damage there from the looks of it, or at least a lot of the sheet metal torn away from the car for Ricky Craven. A very hard accident there as he got turned over and flipped in turn number one and then came back down in traffic. We saw Jeff Gordon climb from his car. Others involved in it will include Derek Cope, Brett Bodine, Jeff Purvis, Ricky Rudd, Ernie Irvin will be involved, Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin. A multi-car pileup that started when they got three wide through the tri-oval. Jeff Gordon trying to go to the outside of Mark Martin and got pinched into the wall there. And again, Ricky Craven's car taking by far the most severe hit.
And Alan, a few of the cars that also involved that were able to limp around to the front straightaway. You mentioned Jeff Bodine's car. Ward Burton's heavily damaged Pontiac sitting here on pit road had a good run going. Looks like the whole right front side of that automobile has been peeled off by a can opener. Bobby Labonte's had some damage to the left side of his car. Both left side tires were down. We saw Elton Sawyer pull his damaged car behind the wall. So some of the cars able to limp around with a lot of damage.
Couldn't happen at a worse point either, because Mark Martin, who had been running 8th, had the entire field behind him, so to speak. Everybody from 8th on back was right there and nowhere to go, and it collected at least a dozen cars, maybe more. We'll be back.
Earnhardt on the inside and Sterling Marlin outside.
And Ernie going with Earnhardt down on the inside. That's going to hit. Oh, he got trouble.
Terrible crash. Front of the field all torn up. Earnhardt's number 3. Head on into the wall at 190 miles an hour.
He almost got upside down. That car got very high off the ground.
And they're going to cut him out of the car. And Earnhardt is on his feet. Dale Earnhardt attempting to walk to the ambulance. Never, never doubt that cliche about Dale Earnhardt. One tough customer gives the thumbs up as he walks away from one of the worst incidents in his racing career.
We have got a mess. 2 by 2 out of the second turn and down the backstretch. That's Waltrip and Alan Kowicki leading this.
Oh, look at Earnhardt. Got sideways. Somebody looked like made some contact with
Uh-oh, we've got a problem.
Contact here for sure. Darrell Waltrip and Joe Rutten. Waltrip car gets on his roof and over and over.
Darrell Waltrip tumbling down the backstretch in what appears to be a very, very serious crash. Joe Rutten, the other car involved in that incident. Darrell Waltrip.
Come on, BW.
And all we can do now is hold our breath.
It looked like the car was going to slide through the grass there and be okay, but then I don't know if it crossed some pavement or something. It dug in.
Yes, Ned, it caught a road over there, and it just...
And when the car got slightly in the air, then it just went on over. The air got underneath it, and it began to overturn, overturning several times.
There were so many cars running in that pack. Something almost had to happen. Boy, they were just going at it so hard.
That we see Darrell. He's out on the inside of Kawicki, and Joe Ruttman right behind him. Now here comes Earnhardt. Looks like someone had tapped him. But, Kawicki came down and touched Darrell.
Threw him back into Ruttman.
Ruttman gets in the side of him.
And
here's the road they hit.
Yeah, when he hits the road, it gets him airborne, and the car starts over. Of course, he was being pushed by the car number 75. That was just a circumstance there.
There was certainly nothing aerodynamic that caused that crash. When they went over that paved road, which is part of the road course, that's when the car got airborne and began to flip. Here's another angle.
We'll see Darrell down on the inside of Alan Kawicki. And there's Earnhardt pulling out, making it about 3 abreast back there. But Kawicki was up a little bit high, and Darrell looked like they just went together as they came off of turn 2 and started Darrell to the infield, and Ruttman took him with him.
Car rolled over 5 or 6 times and came to rest on its side.
Rusty Wallace goes a lap down as Kawicki passes him, and so does Ricky.
All right, just staying right on the bumper, of course, there right now. How long can he do that? Rusty gets out of the way now, Cotton Petty.
And he's upside down into the guardrail, side over side, end over end, and Davey Allison has experienced a horrifying crash. Davey Allison, his car is upside down, fuel is pouring out of it, the safety crew is right there. It stopped just in front of one of the safety trucks. And the third caution of the day is out. Well, just like on Saturday Night Thunder last night, this is the type of thing that we don't like to see in racing.
And of course, it's more apt to happen when the cars are bunched up. And for the first, 300 miles of this race, almost, they were pretty well strung out because we didn't have a caution.
There's a Jaws of Life vehicle coming in with the equipment that they may need to...
Davey's car is upside down.
Well, that
was a good indication.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
He clapped his hands. Apparently, Davey is talking to them.
Yeah, that was a good indication that, hey, we don't need to cut the guy. He's going to be able to get out of here by himself, is what I took from that.
That's exactly the way I read it.
Let's certainly hope that's what it means. Let's take a look at it again. It happened outside of turn 2.
See some contact between Darrell Waltrip and Davey Allison, and the car just flew through the air.
Well, it got on the air, in the air very quickly.
It goes over the top of the guardrail.
Yep.
Flipped right over the top of the guardrail.
Earnhardt were capable of pull away a little bit. They're trying to bring it in.
Trouble behind. Rusty Wallace is turning over.
Rusty Wallace 20 feet in the air, spinning, crashing.
Well, I'll tell you, when they're running that close together and jockeying around position, you just know that things like this are going to happen. And a very unfortunate situation for Rusty Wallace.
Racing back to the line.
To the flag as Dale Jarrett moves around the Hutch Strickland car.
At the stripe.
You know, you almost feel like you're just sitting there waiting for it to happen with that big pack of cars. Unfortunately, we've seen it a couple of times. Hopefully, Rusty's okay here.
Pontiac number 2, totally destroyed, at least 10 times over.
Is he moving in there?
I believe he is, Neil. That looks like some movement by Rusty in there. Let's hope to the Lord it is.
Yeah, he's taking his helmet off, it looks like.
89 Winston Cup champion, Rusty Wallace.
Had a great run going here today.
Safety crews on it and in it just as soon as the field moved by.
Yeah, that car had hardly stopped rolling until one safety member was right there.
Crew chief has called in and has said Rusty Wallace says, I'm okay.
Well, that's great news.
Thank goodness. I tell you, it attests to these cars. We say it over and over again. But when something, we see what happened with Davey in this. Here we go. Let's see what happened on this thing. There's Jarrett. He gets in the line. The 66 car right behind Waltrip. Looked like they tapped. They touched right there, the 66. And then Rusty, he gets clipped right there, turns sideways, and we know what happened after that. The air gets out of the car. Yeah, it looked like the 66 and the 30. Look at Rusty's car, how high in the air. Real violent flips right here. Boy.
Well, similar to Darrell Waltrip here in the 400 miler in July a couple of years ago. There it is again.
Another angle. Looks like Derek Cope was involved.
Yeah, he clipped the 30 car of Michael Waltrip. They got together.
And as you watch that, it reminds me a bit of the late Connie Saylor, who passed away just a week ago. Remember when he sailed down the backstretch, Ned? What a great racer he was, and died of cancer this past week. But he had an incident similar, except he went the whole backstretch upside down. Connie greatly missed here.
Let's see, there's the 30 car. It's hard to tell. They were so close together. Anyway, the 30 and the 66 go over, tag Rusty. Watch the car. The minute the air gets under, inverted wing up in the air.
You know, I think from the blimp we may get it. I think that is where you're going to see it. Look at this Wallace car, just disintegrating. As it settled, he said, I'm okay.
And the roll cage held up in that car.
Yeah, he got tagged. You can see it from the blimp.
Yep.
The 66 coming across on the 30. It catches the number 2. Frightening crash.
Yeah, and they said the minute the car stopped, Rusty hollered, I'm okay. So he knew he needed to call those guys.
He's walked to the ambulance.
We're in Jeff Bodine's car now as he goes through there. He said, I got by that one, accepting that a big piece of debris off of Wallace's car hit him right in the top of the windshield.
Looked like the front windshield out of Rusty's car went right over Bodine. Turns them to junk in a hurry, doesn't it?
And again, remarkably, they walk away.
From a rocket ship.
There he was, walking to the ambulance. The 1989 Winston Cup champion, Rusty Wallace, walks away from the remains of that car. Unbelievable. Back in a moment.